Yudhyasva vigatadjvaraha. So Krishna, he is saying here, O Arjuna, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya. Prabhupada translates it as, surrender all your works unto me. Mai sarvani karmani, sanyasya means giving up. So sanyasya means surrendering all your karmani works to me with adhyatma chetasa, with full Krishna consciousness. And nirashir nirmamo bhutva, you become nirashi. Nirashi means without desire for profit. Asha means profit. So making profit for yourself. Nirmamo bhutva, without claiming proprietorship. Mama means mine. I own this. This is mine. So nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatadjvaraha. You fight, giving up your feverish or lethargy. Jvara means fever, isn't it? Fever means we are not in the proper state of mind. We are diseased. So when you don't act for Krishna, that is considered as diseased condition. So Krishna is saying, in order to act for me, you have to give up your diseased condition, which is lethargy, feverish mentality, vigata jvaraha. So Prabhupada says that this is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. This verse encapsulates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita beautifully. What is that? Prabhupada says, this clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. As if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. So see here, the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to discharge our duties. We all have duties. So we have to discharge our duties as if in military discipline. So you see, go to military. So there is a commander and then you have to work under a commander. And whatever the commander orders, you have to execute the order. There is no consideration. Oh, my dear chief, let's do this, let's do that. Oh, if you do this, it's like this. No, there is no personal consideration. Whatever is the order given, you just execute. So that's what Prabhupada says. One has to sacrifice, and Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. See here, one might say, yes, military discipline is fine. In fact, that is also very difficult. But let's assume that a soldier is killing the opponents because the enemy country, the soldier became very angry. How dare the enemy occupy my land, my motherland? I'll kill them. So that justifies the military discipline. But see here, Arjuna's case, he is not just killing the enemy country, he is killing his own kinsmen, his own family people. That is the amount of difficulty Arjuna is facing. It's not just military discipline, but killing his own family members. So, one time there was a class on this verse that we are reading, 3.30, which is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So we read the purport. The purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is once to discharge duties in Krishna consciousness as if in military discipline. So one person who was attending the class later on, he asked me, Prabhuji, this is very difficult. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is very difficult. We have to act in military discipline. How can I do that? I have family and I cannot just go on acting like a military discipline. I have my own wishes. I have things to take care. So I told him one small story. So, a small incident. So there was this boy, and people are watching. This boy is running and jumping into a lake, and people were thinking, "Oh, why this boy is running and jumping into a lake, and he doesn't even know swimming, and he's blindly jumping, and on the order of his father, he is jumping." And then they saw that as he was jumping, they saw that his father is in the lake. He is catching that boy. And the boy is fully smiling while he was running. So, you see, the point is that we are just like the children of God. When we execute the will of God, will of Krishna, it is like the child trying to jump. That from the child's perspective, if he considers, oh my God, my dad has asked me to jump into the lake, I don't know even swimming. The child can consider all of that. He can become very morose. But then he has to understand that the father will never let the child die, will never put the child at risk. The father will be there personally catching the child. As soon as the child sees the father, his face becomes gladdened. He'll happily jump and the father will catch and they'll play in the water. And now the child now has no fear. The child now it becomes a pastime. Now it becomes a favorite sport for the child. Jumping wherever the father is asking. So this is what is executing the will of the Lord in military discipline with dependence on the Lord. Because that is our constitutional position. We are just like a child dependent on the parent. A baby or a toddler or even a small boy is always dependent on the parents, isn't it? We even say how many dependents you have while filing taxes. We say dependent. The child is most secure when he is with a parent or parents or a guardian. Otherwise, if the child goes out and seeks so-called independence, what is the value of that independence, isn't it? He is in a very precarious condition. So the happy condition for the child is to depend on the parents. So on the other hand, if you are independent, so the same example, let's say the boy is jumping into the lake on the order of the father. So let's say you are independent. Take the example of Gajendra. Gajendra was happily enjoying with family and he was going for the picnic, Gajendra elephant. And he was sporting in the lake, jumping, and his family members spraying water. And suddenly what happened? And the crocodile from nowhere came and caught the leg of Gajendra. And nobody could help him. His close friends, his own strength, everybody, they tried, but they could not. And they left. And the fight went on for years and years. And finally, Gajendra, because of his previous births, Sukruti, he started to surrender to the Lord, pray to the Lord. The Lord came for his rescue and pulled both crocodile and Gajendra out of the lake and killed the crocodile and delivered Gajendra. So this is our situation. Our so-called independence, we think we are happily enjoying. I want to be independent of the Lord. I don't want to follow any regulative principle. I want to enjoy independently. But that is not our constitutional position. Just like the child, as I said, the child cannot be independent of the parents. He'll be suffering. Wherever he goes, he will suffer. So the child's constitutional position is to depend. And there he has a lot of happiness. The child doesn't have to worry about earning. The child doesn't have to worry about carrying a credit card. The child doesn't have to worry about packing his bags wherever he goes, buying books or buying clothes or whatever he wants. The parents are supplying him abundantly, isn't it? So this so-called independence is an illusion. So even, for example, you are driving in the city with your car. You bought a nice sports car. It can go at 300 miles per hour. But can you drive 300 miles per hour the way you want? The moment you cross the speed limit, you will be arrested, isn't it? So your so-called independence, where is it? That means we are claiming to be independent or we surrender to the Lord, we are always dependent. If we claim independence from the Lord, we become dependent on the government and the laws of nature. So better you depend on Krishna than depend on nature and become arrested and punished by nature. So Prabhupada, he wrote one letter encouraging his devotee to how to depend on Krishna. So he was tasked with collecting donations for the temple. And he was not getting much. So this was in Bombay, 1974. So he wrote a letter to Prabhupada becoming dejected. So Prabhupada wrote him back. He said, regarding your question about collecting, whatever money sent, it is all in the hand of Krishna. When Krishna gives, you get. Don't be disappointed if you do not get any collection after working. Always depend on Krishna and everything will be alright. Fight and depend on the results on Krishna. Yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Fight without being lethargic, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the letter he wrote. That means our duties have to be done nicely without lethargy. Lethargy means hesitation, laziness. So a devotee of Krishna is never lazy. So bhakti is not, as people misunderstand, inactivity or laziness where we don't do anything, we just do chanting. Of course, that is a higher stage. But ordinarily, we have to execute the will of Krishna. As Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you kill, come on, get up, yudhyasva vigata jvaraha, give up your lethargy, your personal consideration, whatever you are thinking, just execute my order and depend on me. Depend on me means don't think about consequences, how you will be able to kill them, what will happen if I kill them, whether I'll be able to kill them. You don't have to worry about any of this. I am there. You just have faith in me. We have to have faith in Krishna. So as Prabhupada is saying in this letter, if Krishna gives, you get. He is thinking, this devotee is thinking, I'm not able to get the collection. So he's trying to depend on his own methods, trying to go to some people that he thinks he can give. The fact is that when Krishna gives, you get. So don't be disappointed if you don't get collection after working. So we have to depend on Krishna. So another time in Paris, so two devotees did not come for Mangalarti, the morning program. So finally they came during Darshanarti, and after that Prabhupada called them and asked them, "Where have you been?" They said, "Oh, Prabhupada, we were with some influential people trying to arrange preaching programs for you." And Prabhupada said, "Oh, who are those influential people?" And one devotee said, "Oh, there was this woman who owned a nightclub." And Prabhupada said, "What did she say?" "Oh, Prabhupada, she recommended another person." Oh, so the big person recommended another big person, and finally just kept on getting recommended without getting anything useful. So Prabhupada told them a nice story. So there was this lion who got a bone stuck in his throat. And so he approached a crane. You know, a crane has the animal, it has a long beak. So the lion said, "Oh, can you please remove the bone from my throat by picking it out with your long beak?" And the crane said, "No, if I put my head in your mouth, you'll eat me." And the lion said, "No, no, no, I promise I will not eat you. If you do it, I'll give you a benediction." So the crane reluctantly stuck his head in the lion's mouth and removed the bone. And then the crane stood in front of the lion, expecting some reward. And the lion said, "Oh, why are you standing here? What do you want?" The crane said, "Oh, you said that if I removed the bone, you would give me a benediction." And the lion said, "What? First, I allowed you to stick your head in my mouth. That itself is a big deal. And on top of it, you want a benediction? Just get lost from here." So, so Prabhupada's point was that you're depending on these big people or so-called influential people. They think they have done you a great favor by allowing you to see them only. So the moral, he said, was don't depend on others. Do your work and depend on Krishna. Depend on Krishna means firstly you have to obey what Krishna says, which is follow your sadhana nicely. Don't skip your rounds. Don't skip your morning aratis. Don't skip on the essential things that you have to do. If you miss that, that means you are depending on your own personal considerations, not depending on Krishna. Depending on Krishna means, yes, Krishna will take care. If I follow the regimen given by Krishna, if I execute the duties nicely after following the nice sadhana, have faith that because I am executing the work of Krishna, whatever happens is for my good. This point Prabhupada mentioned in one lecture in Mayapur. Never mind if we are defeated also. That is also service. Krishna sees the service. Defeated or victorious, depend on Krishna. But fighting must be there. Just like Jatayu, he fought for Lord Rama, but he died in the battle. But he became victorious because he fought. Never mind if he was defeated, but he did fight with his best capacity. So that should be our motive. And the classic example was Prabhupada himself. Prabhupada, he came to the West when he was almost 70 years with 40 Indian rupees. He had 40 rupees, which was in those days about $7. And he had a trunk of his Bhagavatam books. And he came in a cargo ship, not even passenger ship. and he had severe seasickness, but still he embarked on the journey to New York. Unknown place, a cold place, from the comforts of Vrindavan in an old age when everybody is looking to retire. Why he did this? To follow his guru's instruction to preach in the West. And he suffered severe seasickness, dizziness, vomiting, lack of appetite, 2 heart attacks, but he survived. And when the ship arrived in New York harbor 37 days later, Prabhupada, he was all alone. He came to America knowing nobody, absolutely no visible means of support, and but with full faith and dependence on the order of his spiritual master. So such was his attachment to Krishna and his faith on his guru's instructions. Prabhupada never thought twice about traveling away from the homely comfort of Vrindavan. And the rest, as we say, is history. Prabhupada, in a brief time, over 12 years, he traveled the world 14 times. He established over 100 temples over 6 continents. He introduced this Harinam Sankirtana, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Jagannath Radhayatra festivals in almost all the countries of the world. So, Prabhupada actually did not leave Vrindavan to preach in the West. Instead, Vrindavan traveled with him. He carried Vrindavan wherever he went. He established the temples of the Lord, none different from Vrindavan. So Prabhupada was the perfect example of how one should try and execute the orders of his spiritual master according to this purpose of Bhagavad Gita, as it mentioned, like a military discipline. So, as I explained, this is not difficult. As a child, as soon as he jumped into the lake, he feels happy. So initially it might seem a tall order, but once we understand the dependence on the Lord, it becomes a favorite sport for the child. And it is a source of happiness. The other aspect of this verse is, yes, you work in military discipline, and nirashi nirmamo bhutva. One has to be, nirashi means not trying to enjoy oneself, the profit. Prabhupada gives the beautiful example of a teller, a cashier in the bank. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself, a single penny for himself. So similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. So that is nirmama. It's not mine. I don't claim proprietorship. The Lord is a proprietor. I don't claim a single cent asha for myself. It is for the Lord. So this is called nirashi nirmamo. And if there is any reluctance to executing such a stern order, that reluctance should be thrown off. That is called vigata jvaraha. Give up that feverish mentality. So Prabhupada finally concludes the purport. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness. That is called adhyatma chetasa. That will lead one to the path of liberation. So this is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, to lead one to the path of liberation. And that is obtained by doing our duties, executing it as per the instructions of the spiritual master, not desiring to enjoy the profit, and not claiming proprietorship and giving up lethargy. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.